Time and do.
Oh yeah, I have to do the roll call.
That's what I have to do. So you're ready.
Never mind.
Yep.
Never mind.
Oh, he's there. Oh, look at that. You're on your way. Nah. There it is. Kindergarten grade. Oh, I left early. So
Made the good parts.
yeah, made some of it. Kindergarten graduation.
All right, we'll go ahead and call to order the June 4th TTAC meeting.
Morning. I'll read the roll. Let us know if you're here. Ty Adley, City of Plymouth.
Here.
Leslie Beek, City of South Bend.
Here.
Chris Jessel, City of South Bend. Bill Holder, Kosciuszko County.
I'm here.
Gotcha. Tim Jackson, Elkhart County.
Here.
Chris Jamrose, City of Mishawaka.
Here.
Sean Klein, St. Joe County.
Here.
Chris Kubasek, Transpo.
Here.
Andrew Lund, City of Goshen. Marsha McSherry, Kosciuszko County.
I'm here.
Gotcha. Sky Meadows, St. Joe County.
Here.
Steve Moriarty, Kosciuszko County. Jason Peters, Marshall County. Jeff Schaefer, City of Elkhart. Lisa Schrader, NDOT LaPorte. Derek Spears, City of Mishawaka.
Here.
Justin Taylor, City of Warsaw. Brent Warren, City of Napanee. Natasha Weisenbeck, Elkhart County. Nicholas Whitmer, Marshall County.
Yep.
And Matt Yarn, NDOT Fort Wayne. All right, we have a quorum of members present. We'll only be voting in person today.
Alrighty, so we have the minutes of the 5 meeting. Everybody have a chance to review? Comments, questions? If not, we'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Abstain? Pass. Reports. I do not have a chair report.
The only report that we have is the May administrative modifications. Administrative modifications, for those that are not familiar, are things that the TTAC and the policy board have given staff the authority to make changes to the transportation improvement program in between meetings to expedite those changes. These usually are minor changes. You can see some description on the back of your agenda of the overall definitions. It's usually small changes in fiscal year or funding amounts. But you can see that full listing in your packet for everything that was done in May. And this is also available to the public online. This information is presented for only informational purposes only. There's no need to approve. That concludes the May administrative modifications report.
Wonderful. I have no old business.
I have no old business today.
Moving on to new business, Transportation Resolution 19-25.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'll be presenting Transportation Resolution 19-25. It is a locally related project with Elkhart County as a sponsor. Item A is adding a bridge replacement project. The location is Bridge 143, carrying County Road 3 over Boggo Creek, 0.9 miles north of County Road 28. This project was awarded recently during NDOT's rural call for projects this winter. The construction phase is scheduled for 2031, which is outside of our transportation improvement plans, but will be programmed later. So there are no questions. I would ask for your endorsement of resolution, transportation resolution 19-25.
Any comments or questions for Cassia 1925? Hearing none, seeing none, entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Same sign, and pass. Thank you. On to transit resolution 20-25.
So, transit resolution 20-25 is for $625,000 for a new bus. This will be ideally a new flyer in line with the buses that we've been purchasing for our fleet within the last couple of years. This was awarded competitively through the 5339 federal funding, which was distributed through NDOT. So it is $500,000 of federal 5339 money and $125,000 local match. So we are just looking to add this to the tip and hopefully get this bus purchased in the next year or two. Any questions?
Hearing, seeing none, comments or questions, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstain, abstention, passes. Thank you. Moving into other actions for resolution 21-25.
Yes. So today we're going to be presenting a resolution for the endorsement of the Move Safe Michiana Regional Transportation Safety Action Plan. There's a few copies that you'll find along the table. We've been working on this plan for over a year now at this point. So it's been, the draft version of the plan has been out for public comment since the beginning of May. And so today I just wanted to go kind of over high level components of what is included in the plan. And then we'll kind of wrap up with some of the public comments that we've received in steps forward. So a little bit about why this plan matters. Over the 5-year period between 19 and 23, over 5,000 people in our region experienced a life-altering crash. And so this plan is really provides our regional commitment towards working towards eliminating those serious injury and roadway fatalities. And I think a good lesson that we've learned from this is that safety is kind of a shared responsibility. So it's not one entity or party, it's kind of a collaborative process to address. One of the big kind of transitions that this plan includes is something called the Safe Systems approach. So looking at safety from all 5 categories: safe people, vehicles, speeds, roads, and post-crash care. And the idea is that if you have all of these components kind of layered together, much like the Swiss cheese, hopefully those layers of redundancy will kind of lead to that reduction in crashes. So really like the Swiss cheese visualization of kind of what we're trying to achieve. Over the past year, you can see kind of our 2024 engagement efforts. And so some of the first phases of our public engagement included an online web map, as well as a lot of pop-up events. And those pop-up events were intended to kind of go to people who wouldn't necessarily traditionally choose to participate in these kind of planning processes. Phase 2 of the plan included a lot more kind of stakeholder engagement. We held a bike ride in Plymouth, I think, which the cover of our Move Safe plan kind of highlights some of the pictures that were taken during that. We held charrettes to meet with local jurisdictions to talk about kind of priority or candidate projects, and held a series of task force meetings through that process. And then a component of the plan includes kind of looking into the data, the crash data that we have for this 5-year period of time. And I'm not going to go over all of the trends, but I think a highlight is that one of the trends is that our fatalities have remained consistent over those 5-year period. We haven't seen any increases really or decreases. Another component is we did see some changes into how serious injuries were reported, which is why you kind of see this seemingly decrease, but it in actuality is probably also kind of maintaining consistency in what we see over the crash data. And then this is kind of a snapshot of where where those fatal and serious injury crashes are happening. And so I think important to note is that these happen on all types of roads. So in St. Joseph County, about 80% of the FSI crashes happen on local roads, whereas Kosciuszko County sees the largest share of crashes on state facilities, and then Marshall County sees 30% of crashes on their US routes, which is US 31 and 30. And so kind of taking those data components, there's three kind of analysis that were done. One of those is the high injury network, which is really just focusing on where those densities in fatal and serious injury crashes are happening. The next was the high risk network. So not necessarily where they're happening, but where they could be happening based on different roadway characteristics. And then the third component was looking at kind of demographics or priority areas. So thinking about carless households or people with disabilities, people who might be more of a vulnerable road user on our network, and kind of highlighting those specific areas in our region. And so with the combination of all of those, that led to our high priority network, which is a regional level network where it's really intended to kind of identify where infrastructure improvements need to be made, or at least looked at to improve roadway safety in our region. And so as we kind of look at this, I view this as kind of the base for where we start when we're thinking about, do we want to apply for implementation projects, or kind of further narrowing in on kind of these specific areas to see what type of improvements could be made. In addition to this kind of high priority network, we have many goals, actions, and strategies that are included in the plan. These 5 different categories are kind of how they're filtered. So we have a lot of good resources related to engineering practices and policies. I think is a great place to look for different kind of supported material for how to improve safety. Have education and awareness, transportation planning policies, funding and partnerships, journal practices and policies, as well as how we're going to evaluate and hold kind of the region accountable to kind of work towards this goal. So we've held 2 public open houses. We held one in South Bend and then one in Elkhart. And here's just a kind of quick snapshot of some of the comments that we received at those open houses. So we had a comment related to South Bend's infrastructure improvement that they would like to see. This actually came from an elementary school kid. So that was kind of fun to talk to him about safety in our region. And then the other 2 are more kind of outlining some of the things that they think are more of a priority throughout or want to highlight as a priority throughout the document. And then I did have the remaining summary, but it also had a coffee accident this morning, so I did not pass that out. But we also received another comment online related to speed setting and how that should be thoughtfully considered, as well as a comment related to wanting to expand upon our section on how we're going to monitor progress over time. Also related to the public comment period, we do have this public comment period open until June 9th. So that's next week. Part of the reason why is because we're also planning to attend an Amish safety event later today. So we're going to be going down to Napanee, and I thought that would be a good place to kind of further collect some input on the final draft of this plan. So we'll be incorporating any kind of comments or discussion that we include from that in the plan. Great. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. And if there aren't any questions, pending no kind of significant changes from being made in our public comment period, I'd ask for your endorsement of the safe machine plan.
So moved. Sorry, I jumped in. You can ask.
You're right on. We have a motion on the floor.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anything opposed? Same sign. Motion's approved. Thank you.
I will ask that this is probably not the last time that we'll be talking about safety with this group, and also definitely moving forward, we're going to be establishing a group that can kind of help facilitate the implementation of the plan. And so if that's something you're feeling kind of interested in kind of assisting, please reach out to the staff. Transitioning right into staff updates, which one of the other great things about having an adopted regional transportation safety action plan is that it does make all of your communities and jurisdictions eligible for the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant program. So there's currently a notice of funding out right now, and those applications are coming up very fast. So I think we have probably about 20 days before the applications are due. And so great resource if you're considering any projects. You're also eligible, in addition to implementation funding, you can still apply for some of the demonstration projects. So if you're wanting to kind of test out something on your, yeah, go ahead.
Is there a limit of the project? Is it limited to 50,000? Is there no limit to how much the project costs?
There is a limit, and I'm sorry, I haven't looked at it. I think 5 million. I'll have to get back to you on that. Is that?
That sounds right.
Yeah. There are different thresholds for the different types of projects. So I think for demonstration projects, 5 million sounds right, but I'll verify. Yeah.
Like $100,000 to $5 million for demonstration.
But the implementation grants can usually be much larger than that.
Yeah.
I don't know what that upper threshold is.
I think it's 25 million.
Yeah. 25.
Okay.
Right. My 4 favorite times of the year, quarterly tracking and review is coming up. So due to the 4th of July holiday, we're going to be doing it the following week. So hopefully that works for many of you. It'll be July 10th. One thing new to note about this round of quarterly tracking is we are transitioning from using our kind of FileZilla upload of an Excel file to going to the Google platform. So we'll be using Google Sheets, thanks to Kelsey and Nick over there. They've been preparing those. And so we'll really just have one link that we'll send out so you can access your reports and fill them out that way. And we're hoping that will be a little bit easier, user-friendly for the consultants and you all to use. So be on the lookout for that change, and we'll be providing some kind of further information and instructions related to that change here coming up.
We're going to be testing all of your consultants' abilities to be more digital and up to date by using Google rather than an FTP site that we've had for the better part of 2 millennia. So bear with us as we make this change. It'll be a lot of good change in the end, but we do recognize that this has been a process that people have gotten used to since 2007. Okay, so it's been a minute and there might be some uncomfortabilities with change. I know all of us as humans just readily adopt change and are good with it, but there might be a little bit of some technical challenges. So just bear with us on this, but it'll be some really great things because on the back end, it will help us do a lot better data analysis, tracking, dashboarding that we can see internally, because there's a lot of back-end scripts that are being processed off of those sheets. And hopefully it will also be then a little bit of less redundant work that has to happen every quarter. So once we get used to it, it'll be some great improvements, but initially there may be some gnashing of teeth. But we had some pilot folks
Yeah.
do it last quarter,
Yep. 3 of your consultants were tested.
and they were early adopters, and they managed. Okay.
All positive feedback, I think. So hopefully it'll be a smooth kind of rollout.
Yep.
All right, so kind of piggybacking or extending off of what Caitlin was talking about with the SS4A stuff, the Safe Streets Toolkit that we have. If you all remember, we have a bunch of materials over here available to try stuff out. Kind of talking about how change can be tough sometimes, and this is a way to kind of try things out without jumping full in on a project. If you have an idea of bump outs on your curves, something like that, want to try out a bike lane, again, try it out. It doesn't have to be fully engineered. We can literally scratch something out on a napkin and then go out and do it the next day with the materials that we have. Also, just kind of wanted, thanks to Leslie and the city of South Bend, the image that we have there, it's on the cover of the pavement playbook, but it's an actual project in South Bend, and then they actually collected some data on how effective it was. And just kind of a quick summary, it is effective. Literally putting paint, it's very decorative and very nice looking paint, but it's paint on the street is what actually got speeds down and helped with traffic. So that's, ultimately what we're trying to do with a lot of these projects. And again, it's just paint. This is, again, pretty ornate and fairly involved, so it did take a little more time, but you can do something much more simple in an afternoon. The bump out that we have done in South Bend, in fact, I think it was 4 hours and an awful lot of, well, should we do that? Kind of figuring it out as we went along. So a few hours, you can really have a positive impact on things. And again, we have all this available, and we're more than happy to work with you to get it over to you and get it on the ground.
Yes.
And then the second thing, wanted to mention the mobile counter, the counters that we have out on the trails to keep track and monitor how many people are using the trails. We also have mobile counters. So we can go out and literally put them wherever you're kind of curious of how the trail's being used. We have the ability to go out and do that, place those out there for a couple weeks, give you kind of a snapshot of what's happening out there. We're scheduling things out and have a reasonably full schedule, but not jam-packed that we can't fit something in. So again, reach out if you're curious about what's happening on a portion of your trails. We'd be glad to work with you and help you figure that out.
And Dustin, can you go back one slide just so I forgot to maybe hammer home a point here? So just as an example of what South Bend did with that picture there, based on their data, the average speed, it was a slightly lower traffic count on the pre-install, but it was a much higher speed. That average speed is 32 miles an hour. An average crash with a pedestrian at 30 miles an hour has about a 45% chance of being a fatal collision, right? So 30 miles an hour is kind of that threshold where you're still at a survivability, but you have a 45% chance of fatality. Depends on the kinetic energy, the type of vehicle, all those kind of things, the pedestrian. But by dropping 15%, you're now under that 30 miles an hour. If we were closer to 20 miles an hour, as an example, we'd have a 5% fatality chance, right? So it's a very serious reduction. So each mile per hour that we're getting, we're dropping 5 miles per hour just by putting some paint on the street. And I don't mean to say that in a sense of like, it was a very big undertaking. So I'm not trying to belittle that, but by putting paint on the street, you're dropping 5 miles an hour. And with each mile per hour, you're increasing the survivability of any pedestrian vehicle crash that may happen. So it's a really small way to enhance a corridor, but also make it a much safer street. So I just wanted to be able to provide a little bit of that context that you can see of that 5 miles per hour could be critically important in any kind of scenario where a driver and a pedestrian are in a crash. And that 5 miles an hour could mean quite literally life and death. And so just really wanted to be able to point out it's a really good demonstration of what that looks like. Just as a case study and example, and this really pairs well with the safety plan that was just approved or just endorsed, that'll be considered for approval by the policy board next week. So these types of projects are already available to you. We have this demonstration material, and if we found out working with you, we don't quite have all the materials that you need, well, we're always expanding this toolkit, right? So we could potentially do some purchases as well for your particular demonstration project. So just FYI, wanted to be able to hammer that home because I noticed those speeds and just wanted to be able to point that out.
We also did bump outs with delineators and the crosswalk paddle in the middle of the road. So even if you don't do the big, beautiful intersection, I think those things had a big impact.
Yeah.
I think we have increase in traffic because people wanted to look at it. So it's unintended.
How's the paint when the cars went over?
It doesn't look as good now. It is dirtier, but it still looks pretty good after a year. Yeah.
So it's still there.
Yeah, it's still there. You can go and drive it. Yeah.
The simple bump outs that we did in South Bend also on some of the corners. The first year we did it, over a winter and came back in the following spring and put a second coat on it. It looks much better the third and fourth year after putting 2 coats on it. So just kind of a little lesson learned, but you could debate whether or not we need to put another coat on now, but it's been a couple of years. And again, it's house paint. It's not special paint of any sort. And you can very clearly, I love the way it demonstrates both what we thought it should be. So the bump out is probably a little wider than it should be, based on the car tracks. You can very clearly see where they're cutting the corner, not entirely, but a little bit. So to modify that design without, no offense to the engineers, without guessing of what it should be, we can literally go out there and measure it and show you what will work.
Yeah, and those bump outs in front of the county city building, they were painted red. When was the last time it was painted?
I think 2 years.
Yeah, and it's still very clear and present today. Yes, it could use maybe a touch up, but it still gets the point across.
Yeah, it's a good thing to do before you do the hard, the curb extensions. So
Much cheaper to move paint than a curb line.
Yeah.
And we're
Good justification. For it.
almost in the middle of a study right now on Jefferson as it comes into downtown. All we did was just simply a line and then put the delineators down. It's working out extremely well, especially coming out of school time, because the big portion there was individuals would be overtaking while traffic was stopped and would almost hit the guards and the kids in traffic as they were trying to cross because they didn't want to wait for a left turn to occur. So we made some adjustments and it's gone out really well. We're out almost nothing.
I would kind of, I mentioned kind of tagging on to the Move Safe plan. I know you guys are all going to run out and, spend the afternoon looking over that. So as you're looking over that and the parts that are pertinent to your jurisdiction, again, use this. We can literally come out and pick an area on the map that that is bad or that the data shows, and we're happy to get together and talk about what can be done, and then go out and do it.
Thanks, Justin.
Kind of switching subjects a little bit, I wanted to mention the Indiana LTAP PASER training workshops that are taking place this summer. There'll be one coming up here on the 18th in Fort Wayne. If you have staff that might be interested in kind of attending that. I also wanted to kind of briefly mention that LTAP is kind of updating their PASER program to include some further quality control and quality assurance procedures. I think they're rolling it out this week or this year if you want to use it, but next year will be the first year that they fully implement and require you to use that process. So one of the changes, so PASER training is pretty consistent. They've been holding those yearly, and there'll also be some hybrid versions instead of the in-person versions, but PASER certification is required for those every 2 years. And so there'll be certified PASER raters in the region that have kind of their own unique IDs. Additionally, as part of kind of the quality control piece is that if you have somebody going out to rate your roads, you're also required to validate or kind of field check at least a minimum of 10 segments, just to make sure there's some consistency in rating. And so that'll be a change for sure that will be implemented next year. If you use another system like PCI, you're not required to do this. LTAP is just trying to provide kind of the further resources and training to ensure that we're having good data to kind of back some of the decisions that are being made. And so I'm sure there'll be a lot more information coming out from LTAP, but I just wanted to mention that you could start using some of that quality control pieces this year, but next year will be for sure rolled out.
All right, just wanted to provide an update on our Go 574 Bike Month Challenge. So this started a few weeks ago on May 12th, kicking off with Bike to Work Week, and has been continuing for the whole month. And it will end this Sunday. So the weather's a little bit bad this week, but if you have a chance to get out, get on the bike and log a few more trips, there's still time to do that. As far as the usage so far, it's been pretty good. We have over 230 people signed up for the platform, 75 of which have participated in the challenge. So they've logged a bike trip in the last few weeks for a grand total, as of I think yesterday, this morning, of around 1,500 trips, taking 4,200 car miles off the road, saving about $3,000 for the region, and removing approaching 2 tons of CO2 from the atmosphere. So pretty good engagement. Again, it's dropped a little bit with some of the worst weather we've had the last couple of weeks, a few rainy days kind of impacting that, but still pretty good participation in the challenge. We've already awarded gift cards to 3 weeks worth, so about 15 different winners. There's still this week left to get the winners for that, if you have time to log trips, as well as the grand prize of the e-bike, which will be announced next week.
Thanks, Aiden.
Next is privilege of the floor.
I think Kelly Wanger is online. Kelly is what Nick did. And they had some information that they wanted to share about South Shoreline. So Kelly, I don't know if you're there, but I wanted to make sure that we had a chance to hear from you related to updates related to the South Shoreline.
Yep, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Can.
Perfect. Thank you, James. I appreciate that brief introduction. So as he said, I'm Kelly Winger. I'm with the South Shoreline. I had asked to just speak with you guys briefly this morning because the South Shoreline is in the process of updating our 20-year strategic plan. Our last plan was updated in 2014. And with the completion of Double Track and near completion of Westlake, plus the South Bend Station realignment making good progress, we've pretty much ticked off all the major projects in the previous plan, so it's time for an update. Tomorrow, we have a public survey that goes live, so it's live from June 5th through June 19th. Just kind of reaching out to the communities and seeing, you know, what is wanted or what is needed, any ideas folks have to help better or improve the South Shoreline over the next 20 years. We have completed a passenger survey more recently, so this is just a further step towards gathering data for that plan. We've got some meetings set with bigger communities, but certainly, you know, if there's additional communities that we're not currently in that maybe have some ideas on how we can improve our service, I'm always more than happy to take those calls and set up meetings and discuss those ideas. I have a flyer that I'd like to send over, James, if I could, that maybe
Absolutely.
be shared with the members. I'll send that here as soon as we're done, but we appreciate any feedback the communities want to give us for input on this plan. Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly. And I think that's great information, and we'll definitely be promoting that to make sure that, you know, folks have an ability to comment and provide their thoughts related to the next 20 years with NICTD and improvements to the South Shoreline. We would hopefully encourage all of you to do that as well. You know, South Shore has been a great piece of connectivity for our region and a great asset. And I'm really excited when the region can kind of achieve that vision of 90 minutes to Chicago on the South Shoreline. So any other future 20-year enhancements to the service, I'm sure folks have lots of different ideas, but it's really important to be involved because, as Kelly said, the last time they did this, they created a list, they worked that list, and they implemented that list of projects to implement during that 20-year time frame, 20+ year time frame. But so it's a really important way to be involved and try to provide vision for enhancing that kind of connective tissue that our region is lucky to have. Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you.
Any additional privilege of the floor? Hearing none, moving on to public comment.
Nothing online or shared ahead of time.
All right, finally, adjournment.
So moved.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Please take a look at your calendar for July. Our next scheduled meeting would be on July the 2nd. Should be fine, but you don't need to answer us right now, but just take a look at that, and you know, if you can let us know if that's going to be a problem, just because we want to make sure that we do have a quorum if folks show up on July the 2nd.